family. You know, sometimes we get this idea that if things aren't working out for us, or we're going through a spell where we can't seem to make things work, or things aren't going our way, then it has to mean that God doesn't like us. And the question I have for you today is, do you honestly believe that God likes you? Not loves you, because theologically he has to love you, but he truly likes you. God loves by the necessity of his nature. If he didn't love us, he would cease to be God. But if you could answer that question, that the Father is very fond of me, then there would become a relaxedness, a serenity, and a compassionate attitude towards yourself that really reflects God's own tenderness. The problem is that working really hard to get God to like you is a fruit of self-righteousness. And what's that? Well, it's the effort to become righteous before God by your own efforts. Self-righteousness is always defined by self. You decide what's right and wrong. You vainly attempt to define what's good enough to please God. Or more accurately, you determine what pleases you. You desperately work to get to the point where you can say, this is good enough. I bet God likes me now. But if we're really honest with ourselves, the ultimate reason we want God to like us is maybe because we think if he likes us, then he'll do what we want him to do. More often than not, we think that we can manipulate God to give us what we want. However, the road to self-righteousness always has a deep ditch on either side of it. If you travel the road long enough, it'll get so narrow that it'll eventually push you into one ditch or the other. So what are these two ditches? Well, one is arrogance and the other is burnout, and they are equally dangerous. You see, the ditch of arrogance causes you to think you've reached super Christian status. You now have been granted this giant C on your chest with gold-plated shield around it. It'll stay buried under the shirt of false humility, waiting for the perfect opportunity to come out. In these moments, you can show it off with how much theology you know, how many scriptures you can quote, and how you can have an uncanny knack for pointing out others' specks through your plank-speared eyeballs. If you don't fall into the ditch of arrogance, then the other ditch is sure to snatch you up. It's known as the ditch of burnout. And it's actually more like the ditch of arrogance than most would want to believe. Arrogance, you see, is a mask for insecurity and for feeling inadequate. Burnout is finally acknowledging your insecurity and inadequacy and then deciding to throw your hands up and say, you know, what's the point? I'll never measure up. I'll never have victory. So why even try? You know, burnout has consumed far too many souls that were made for so much more. And you know what? Many pastors and leaders fall into the ditch of burnout as well. Far too many have rolled downhill by trying to get God to like them. Their downward momentum consisted of doing a lot of good things. So many that they coast right into the ditch of burnout. Now they do nothing for God. They tried hard, they worked hard, now they have nothing left to give. They're spiritually paralyzed. They can't move. They're suffering from spiritual lockjaw. They have nothing left to say and believe that they're not useful to God anymore and that God doesn't like them. But God operates with a different love than we do. He is motivated by and acts upon his agape love for creation. Agape is a Greek word for an ultimate self-sacrificing kind of love. Agape love is the kind of love that is always associated with the love of God and the way he extends that perfect love towards his creation. It's a type of love that will never that we will never know or experience apart from God. We can't get it from others because a natural human kind of love falls way short of agape love. Most relationships are built on an if-then kind of love, which is better known as conditional love. If you do what I want you to do, then I'll love you. If you love me, then I'll love you back. But in contrast, God's love is unconditional. He loves us even when we mess up. He has the ability to love those who do not even love him back. And you don't have to really try hard to get God to like you because he already deeply, perfectly and unconditionally loves you. He loved you before you ever had a chance to do anything for him. In fact, he loved you before you ever knew him. He loved you before you were even created. Take a minute and wrap your head around that. You think God doesn't care about you? He loved you before he created you. Ephesians chapter 1, verses 4 and 5 says this: He chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and blameless before him. In love, he predestined us for adoption to himself as sons through Jesus Christ, according to the purpose of his will. Wow, how amazing is that? This type of love is what was displayed on the cross of Jesus Christ. You can't work to get God to like you and at the same time rest in the fact that he already loves you. They don't work together. Eventually, one's going to conquer the other. And hopefully, at some point, the power of God's love will overwhelm you to the point that you would never settle for God merely liking you. Strive for more. Don't settle until you settle in the depths of the Father's love for you. And there you will discover that, yes, the Father is very, very fond of you. God bless you, church family. See you soon.